Colin. So this afternoon, we're going to talk about assessment in the PYP.
So Jean, in addition to the 6 purposes of assessment in the primary, I wanted to talk to you about the 4 dimensions of assessment. Unlike traditional schools, the largest quadrant or the largest part of assessment nowadays is actually monitoring.
The monitoring piece of the pie, if you will, is a lot bigger because that's where we should be spending our time and emphasis in the primary school. Now, the monitoring stage happens throughout the learning journey. It is not something that you're going to see at the end as a big summative task, but it is the monitoring of that process. And it can look in different ways, right?
Absolutely. I think daily, on a daily basis, you would see adults and children conferencing and discussing what needs to be improved, what could be changed. Increasingly, though, you would see monitoring happening between children in terms of peer assessment and peer conferencing. In addition, you may also see self-assessment, children reflecting on their own to develop what needs to be improved or fixed in their own learning.
And of course, teacher observation is a big part of that as well. So all those times that a teacher steps back and watches the students as they engage with their work and with each other, that's all part of the monitoring process.
Another quadrant is measurement. And in a traditional sense, this is determining how much learning the child or the student has undertaken. Increasingly, though, in the PYP, we're shooting for much more formative measurement of learning.
Yes, but that measurement of data, it still exists, which is why at our school at ISU, we still do things like the MAP test, for instance, which will give us some data. In reading, we might use the PM benchmarks to assess specific reading levels. So that part of the quadrant is a lot smaller, and we don't do it as much as the monitoring, but still happens here.
And it is our focus or emphasis to bring that measurement back to the learner in a formative way where they can feed forward. Now let me take you to the 3rd quadrant, documenting learning. Documenting learning is the process by which either an adult or a child will review the process and the progress that they've made and find ways to capture that and make that visible.
And in our school, we've got lots of different ways to do the documenting. The report cards, the goals, when students come up with the learning goals and objectives for the semester with their parents and with their teacher. So all of these, the portfolios is another great example in a PYP school.
The portfolio is a hallmark of a PYP school, and certainly it's a point of pride with every single student at ISU. It demonstrates not only their interests, but their skill set, their strengths. It also represents who they are in terms of their identity, and it is absolutely an artifact of documentation across the year.
And I will add that it shows, to tie in with what you just said, development over time, which is really one of VIB's objectives behind the portfolio, is to be able to see from before and after how different does that learning look.
So the 4th dimension to assessment is reporting. This is the smallest of the quadrants, and it is the most summative of the quadrants. It's also the part of assessment that the IB suggests we spend the least amount of time on.
I'm chuckling because I do know how much time our teachers spend writing report card and report card comments. But it's true, in the grand scheme of things, it is not the end-all be-all, and it is a very, as you can see from the infographic, it is the smallest piece of that puzzle.
So involved in our reporting here at ISU, we have report cards. We have a November progress report card, which is a narrative. In January, we have the end of semester 1 report card that documents growth, engagement, and achievement. And then we have a similar report card in June. We have 3 conferences that are really important to us here at ISU. In September, children undergo a listening conference. And this is not actually for children to listen, but rather teachers to listen to parents about their families and about their children.
And that's to help the teachers gain a more comprehensive context about the child to better be able to support all of the students in their class. So the great information comes out of those conferences.
Moving into November and February, we have back-to-back three-way conferences. The idea here is that students will reflect and review their learning, they'll target set, they'll monitor progress, and then they'll review their targets in terms of progress and growth.
Possibly we'll even create new targets.
Absolutely.
If that's what's appropriate. Maybe think of different ways to achieve them if they haven't achieved them, or to change them if they haven't achieved them, and why have they not?
And finally, the third type of conference that we have in our reporting system is the student-led conference. This comes up in late in the academic year, and it's an opportunity for students to use their portfolio to lead their parents through a journey of their learning across the academic year.
Now, Colin, this might be controversial, but would you think that when the grade 5 students share their learning at exhibition, that this is also a form of reporting?
Absolutely. Sharing, that word is a really important idea at ISU. When you are accountable for your own learning and you take it to an audience, that is one method that you have defined as a successful way to share.
And we've seen that not only in grade 5, but in many different grade levels, where the students and the teachers take opportunity to invite the community to the school, and the students can share some of what they learned throughout the unit.
An important word to connect to the idea of sharing is action. And many times what we understand is that just by sharing, students are taking action. That might be in the process of learning, or it may be as a result of learning. But sharing is one of the foundations of action.
It's a good point, because I think that's one of the elements that's perhaps different from the PYP to other of the IB programs.